thing I see ahead is just the heat rising off the road. The rainbows I keep chasing keep on fading before I find my crop of gold. And more I'm thinking that the only treasures that I'd ever know are long ago and far behind, wrapped up in my memories of home. Home was a swimming hole and a fishing pole and a field in the muddy road between my toes. Home was a back porch swing where I would sit and Mama sang Amazing Grace while she hung out the clothes. Home was an easy chair with my daddy there and the smell of Sunday supper on the stove. My footsteps carry me away, but in my mind I'm always going home. The miles that lay behind me weren't as hard as the miles that lay ahead. And it's too late to listen to the words of wisdom that my daddy said. And the straight and narrow path he showed me turned into 1,000 winding roads. My footsteps carry me away, but in my mind I'm always going home. Home was a swimming hole and a fishing pole and a field of the muddy road between my toes. Home was a back porch swing where I would sit and Mama sang Amazing Grace while she hung out the clothes. Home was an easy chair with my daddy there and the smell of Sunday supper on the stove. My footsteps carry me away, but in my mind I'm always going home. And the straight and narrow path he showed me turned into 1,000 winding roads. My footsteps carry me away, but in my mind I'm always going home.
If you're feeling blue, don't worry, all you have to do is call me and I come round. If you're feeling sad, don't worry, I won't be mad, just call me and I come round. I'll be there when you need me. I'll be there when you call. I'll be there, baby, believe me, to catch you if you fall.
Good evening, everybody. You're all very, very welcome to our evening of poetry, spoken word and storytelling on this summer solstice. My name is Karen McHugh and I'm the CEO of Safe Home Ireland. And before we start tonight, I'd like just to tell you a little bit about Safe Home Ireland and our work and campaign that we're launching tonight. I'm also going to just tell you a little bit about myself and my own journey of being an immigrant as well. So Safe Home Ireland is a very small charity. We have 5 staff actually, one in our office in Mulranny, Marianne Fadgen, our coordinator, and Bernadette Conahan, who is also in Mayo. We have Brenda Fleming and we have Noreen Mulrine, who is in Galway. So we are a small charity, and I always say we're a small charity with a big heart. So Safe Home Ireland was set up in the year 2000, and we are this year marking our 21st anniversary. And our founder and our life president, Dr. Cowley, had a vision back in the year 2000 to reach out and to connect with those abroad who had a desire to come home to live. And 21 years later, we are celebrating that. To date, we have directly assisted 2,153 people return home via Safe Home via our housing service. So the 4 areas of our work are housing, information, outreach, and what we call Connect. Our housing information service has certain criteria, and it's there on the screen, I believe, as I speak. Not going to go into the detail as to what exactly the specific criteria are. You can see for yourself, and if you want to check our website, you'll see more information. Our information service is access to information and advice on any issue, regardless of circumstances, to anybody abroad who is considering making that move. And our outreach is a kind of a key service, and that is both outreach in the UK, which we obviously have had to stop at the onset of COVID, and we also have a home visiting and support service here in Ireland that was cancelled for a number of months during lockdown, but we're back on the road again. And that's a key service where we support people who have recently returned home. And I am smiling, of course, because my dog is whinging in the background, so he's always looking for attention. So excuse me for interruption. Our other area is what we call connection, which I'm not going to go into, apart from this is what we're doing tonight and what we have been doing. I suppose we've been on a journey the last 15 months since the onset of COVID to try and connect with all our family and our friends and our loved ones abroad. And a time when I suppose we're not able to meet in person, and connecting with people via, be it our Facebook concerts that we've had a number over just over the last year. And we have a newsletter, we have a blog, we have lots of social media channels, and I suppose without the support of the Irish government, we are a charity. We rely on the funds of the general public like everybody else. We are part funded through the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Immigrant Support Programme, to whom we're eternally grateful. However, that funding is limited, and here we are tonight asking you and anybody who would like to support the work of Safe Home Ireland, maybe you can consider supporting us. And on that note, I'm a returned immigrant myself. I am one of the graduate and immigrant generation in the late 80s, and I graduated as a social worker, and my entire career has been in the area of social work. Apart from probably the first year I went to London, I worked in Texaco Oil Company in admin, so that was very interesting. But my entire career has been around child protection, mental health, working in housing, homelessness, and I then ended up in an organisation called Brent Irish Advisory Service, BIAS, and I had first-hand knowledge both as a social worker and as the director of the issues and the challenges that are facing Irish abroad. And many Irish did incredibly well when they left, and that's absolutely wonderful. And however, there were some who maybe had to leave Ireland for various different reasons and may have had challenges abroad. And we worked in BIAS and in other organisations with those Irish who had various levels of challenges and difficulties, and I suppose that obviously is where we are now, is trying to reach out and connect with those vulnerable Irish who are abroad, some in crisis situations, and also just some who are living abroad and would like to come home. And they are the generation that sent money back home to our parents, our grandparents, to keep the country going, to keep food on the table, to keep families in housing, etc. So the entire education budget in the late 60s or the early 60s comprised of what we call the immigrant remittances. So I suppose with that in mind, tonight we're launching a campaign and it's called No Place Like Home. And I, as a returned immigrant myself, I made the journey twice, and home is where the heart is. And for those who are abroad, where you have settled and made it your home, then that is no place like home for you. However, there are many others who their dream and their desire is to return home to live, and Safe Home Ireland's work is to support those who want to come home but need the help. Now, I am there but for the grace of God, as they say, and I'll ask Nathan there to roll it again with our planned giving campaign, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later, but I just want to mention it just at the very beginning. And I myself, I suppose I'm one of the fortunate ones, and my life could have turned out very differently, and I'm well aware of that, and I'm thankful every day that I had the support of great family and great friends, and that I found a career path that is not a job, it is a passion. It's what I enjoy doing and what I love doing. I lost my own parents when I was only 6, so I'm well aware of the challenges and the issues that people have abroad. So I suppose I'm putting out an emotional plea here as a charity. We need your help, and tonight I suppose is just one example and one opportunity that if you're not able to help yourself, well, you're not able to help our organisation yourselves, then maybe you can just spread the word, create the awareness that we exist. And with our planned giving campaign, we talk a little bit about some of the people that we assisted return home, and the number of people that we supported return home as well. So as I said earlier, we supported 2,153 people directly home to secure accommodation. And that is in addition to many others who would have returned independently of Safe Home, and we supported through our outreach service. We've assisted thousands of others through our information and our advisory service as well. So as I say, I am one of the lucky ones, and I am aware of that. I say I'm one of the fortunate ones. I've met incredible people on my journey, and I've been very lucky in my life. And so I'm imploring really just to reach out and support those who, particularly during COVID, are in great difficulty abroad, or have that dream to return home to have fulfilled lives, but equally want to come home and live their lives here but die on Irish and be buried in Irish soil. So I'm just going to finish off with a poem. It is from a book called In a Field of Daisies, and it is poetry by Johnny B. Broderick, who has been a great friend of Safe Home and a great supporter as well, an advisor that I've turned to in the last couple of months for guidance in relation to Safe Home, and has introduced us to many artists as well. So this is for you, Johnny B, if you're listening. It's called Even If I Am. Even if I am what people say I am, even if I am not who I am, who I know I am, then I know a lot. For to know myself, to be myself, saves precious time when others question, who am I? Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the concert, and I will be back again a little bit later on. Take care, enjoy.
Thank you so much indeed, Karen, for the lovely introduction. And hello to everybody who has joined us here this evening, on this very special evening for Safe Home Ireland. It's a poetry and spoken word evening. I'm delighted to be a part of it. And I'm also delighted to be an ambassador for Safe Home Ireland, something that I'm looking forward to working with into the future. And this is the last event, I do believe, for Safe Home Ireland for this year, or at least until later on in this year, maybe December or something like that. We're planning great things moving forward, and hopefully you will all be included and you will all participate, and your participation is very important to an association like Safe Home Ireland. They do need your support, and without your support they really can't do the work they're set out to do, which is amazing work in support of people in all sorts of circumstances. Recent immigrants who need to return, who maybe fell foul of COVID and losing jobs and so on. All of those people have a place with Safe Home Ireland where they will get help if needed. There is a launch, of course, this evening, as Karen said, for a direct debit mandate to be done, that you can contribute through a direct debit from your bank account. That would be much appreciated, and that way they have an idea of what kind of funding they have to look forward to in the future. There's a lot of very interesting poetry and spoken word lies ahead, so I'm not going to keep you too much longer. But I would like to read a poem by Johnny B. Broderick. He should be reading it himself, but no, he wouldn't budge. Anyway, I'll do it for him, and I think this is probably fitting in what we're talking about. It's a poem called Difference. You make a difference by doing what you do best, by being yourself and not comparing yourself to the rest. You make a difference without asking for any compensation, not praise and definitely not monetary. Just by giving without explanation, you make a difference. And you become different in that time, because the giving helps you grow in your heart, soul and mind. And there is something about that, isn't there? Anyway, I'm going to leave you for a little while. Sit back, enjoy the show, and I think 'tis Michael Joe that's up next. Enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Michael Joe Ginley, and I'm a director of Safe Home. I've been involved with the group for the last 21 years. I would like to do a poem for you called the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which of course is very appropriate, seeing as the background we have here, Croagh Patrick in the background. But this is where we took part in the Dublin Parade some years ago, and 95% of it is true. You'll have to work out the 5% yourself. Please forgive the audience in the background, my sheep. They're the only audience I have now. Anyway, the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It was going to be so easy to take part in the Dublin Parade. All we had to do was to get there. Our plans were already prepared. Our float was a boat made of timber, clinker built with a mast made of deal. Our sail was a yawl made of calico, its colours Mayo's red and green. Flashing lights like a necklace adored her, as proudly she sat on our plinth. Painted waves they lapped all around her, painted fish at the rees swam a length. On board were cave men and cave women, all pagans that were to the heads. St. Patrick at the stern tried to calm them, with his crozier he blessed them, amen. At last the parade it was ready to march from St. Stephen's Green. All the people were dressed in their finery, sprigs of shamrock on every collar was seen. The roar from the crowd was tremendous as proudly we sailed with our crew. The floats fore and aft were so jealous, our boat was too good to be true. We stuck out our chests and abused them. Our insults flew thick and flew fast. Our float was the best in the country. First prize awaited our grasp. It was then that disaster it struck us. a cable got caught in our mast, and try as we might, we couldn't free it. We split the Dublin parade in two halves. The Garda Síochána, they surrounded us. On the spot, they demanded our names. We were all too frightened to oblige them, except the skipper gave St. Patrick from Wales. In the meantime, our cave girls had scampered. They were almost at top of the masts. The wolf whistles from the crowd, they were deafening. The bare legs of the girls drove them daft. All of a sudden the sails filled. From the Liffey came a big gust of wind. Our boat, it took off like a rocket, pulling cables and all from their stems. All of Dublin was thrown into darkness as we windsurfaced across Connell's Bridge. We raced on past the review stand. The dignitaries looked aghast where they sat. On and on our boat sailed through Dublin, pulling cables from walls as it flew. The crowds ran amok as they scattered. We didn't stop till we landed in Crewe. On the following day we inquired as to whether we'd won the first prize. We were told to get lost and not bother. From now on we were banished for good. All of Dublin was still out of action. The country was at a standstill. Power cables were strewn like spaghetti. The Taoiseach in the Dáil passed the bill. From now on, no float from Mulrenny was ere to cross o'er Shannon Bridge, and if ever they should reach Mother Hubbard's, shoot on sight was the order he gave. So, if your parade you wish to enliven, call Mulrenny, just get their big yawl, but make sure that you're west of the Shannon and your lights come from paraffin oil. Thank you. This is a tribute to my wife, Teresa, who passed away recently. She came into my life like a beam, shone a light on my path like a dream. Through life's troubled times and good, her love never faltered as it could. Her humility belied courage and strength, adversity endured, heaven sent. Triumphs disregarded with a shrug, credit given to someone else with a hug. And now that our journey has ended, I'm thankful for the miles we have tended. Though you're gone has viscerated my core, I'm just grateful you once shone on my floor.
Anne-Marie Kennedy. Congratulations and happy 21st birthday to Safe Home, the brainchild of Dr. Jerry Cowley, founded in 2000. I'm very proud to be one of the contributors to this great fundraiser. Thanks especially to Karen for coordinating, and I really look forward to hearing all the other contributors. Today I'm going to do two pieces of my own work. The first one is a piece I had published in Ropes 2014. It's a literary publication out of Inuai, Galway, and in 2014 the theme was home, so I thought it appropriate to read from that today. My piece was called Spindlewood, and I'll read you a short excerpt from it now. I was their unnatural child, transplanted without roots, and they grew me there. In 3 rooms under thatch with the flat roof at the back where they harvested the rainwater for washing. They had tea chests full of turf, geranium-covered pots, and families of cats that slept under lace curtains on wide window sills. Suck lambs got bottle-fed in the scullery, where our Wellingtons were left on faded check lino. The black kettle sang, the cuckoo clock rang, and the flowery tea caddy rattled when she put it back on the plank that they called the mantel. Climbing roses were twisted around pillars and trellised up the gable wall. Bastards for pruning, he said, but she said their thorns were fingers for clinging to pebble dash or up the timber arch. His hands would be torn when he'd prune the nude stems in the springtime. She'd make supper from nothing, a slice of toast and a kipper, a hard-boiled egg and cheese or a slice of tart. that I had a hand in. They talk of fairies and ghosts to frighten and delight me, and by the light of the tilly lamp their stories enlightened me. My iron bed was piled high with heavy blankets, handmade pillows, a hot water jar under a feather eider down, and the whiff of paraffin oil that was like lavender at bedtime. The mehel came with the thresher and perched themselves on seats around the small kitchen table. Strong men and lads with vests on, loud voiced and thirsty from tossing and pitching, throats dry from the chaff were wetted, with pots of strong tea, or sometimes black porter. They made tall cocks of straw and tied them down in the haggard. They bagged the oats from a chute, and I shouted at rats from a safe distance on a stile by the gate in the orchard. When I was 8, a boy came and I asked him to marry me there. On the third rung, our brown legs hung down. He said he would. Then we sucked black curtains from a canister. After they died, a cold-hearted woman told me I was her natural niece. I lied with confidence, said I knew all along, because they had grafted me securely onto their branches. I thrived in their light and now live in the house I was cherished in. I have climbers that wind around pillars and up gable walls, and my fingers bleed in the springtime. But our roses are worth it. And now for something completely different. A couple of years ago, I answered a submission for a poetry competition with the theme The Long Point. The Long Point is this popular bathing spot by the lake in Loughrea. And so this is how I interpreted the theme, The Long Point. And I just have to say it's unashamedly autobiographical. I call it Full Circle. I'll recite it for you now. I haven't tanned my arse at the Long Point in quite a while. Not since quitting the dreaded fags when I started grazing on the bags of yellow bonbons in between my meals. And after the dinner, instead of a relaxing smoke, I'd have a snack, a Twix or a Toblerone, which sent the triglycerides into overdrive. And in no time at all, I'd put a stone on me bones. Then Mother Nature, the bitch, in all her bounty, on account of my age and I battling the change, bestowed another stone on top of that. A layer of lard that wrapped around me that I lugged around for a year and a half. The weight of a square bale of wet hay, a half a hundredweight of rolled oats or a year-old golden Labrador. And when I'd lumber down the street, the women I'd meet would look at my feet, or a fictional place to the left of my face. Your skin is glowing, they'd say, and your hair is great. And I'd want to say, piss off, you wagon. What good is the great hair when I haven't a stitch to wear? The buttons had flown off my coats, my zips wouldn't zip, my expanding arse split my jeans at the seams, my previously C jugs spilled out of their double D cups, which were attached by a restraining harness that cut into me back to match the restraining knickers with the industrial strength elastic that crisscrossed my lower torso that I wore until they cauterized the blood supply to my thighs and the lower extremities. That's when the extreme measures were called for. So I called up and signed up for a 3-month trial at the Tranquility Spa and Leisure Club, a place wherein I have never felt less tranquil in all my life. As for the leisure, that's a lie from the marketing bastards. This is a 16th century torture chamber, which I copped onto in the locker room, watching the skinny ones, the hedonists, feeling and preening themselves, exuberantly drying and admiring their fatless chassis flossing between the cheeks of their bony little arses with tea towels while I changed in a dark corner between steel cabinets under a bath sheet about the size of a small field in Athenry. The place was filled with menacing looking machinery, beasts of steel peopled with patrons of all sizes and genders in 50 shades of grey and black, spandex and lycra, lying down, lepping up, squatting, sweating. I selected the moving walkway for my warm-up. And me, treadmill virgin, bored out of my tree, kicked up the velocity and then increased the incline, but lost my balance in the meantime. My left foot touched the stationary verge of the rapidly moving belt and I was flung like a missile, head first at high speed, out the Kiltulla side. My forehead and the aforementioned fat tits became landing gear and handbrake, and as I floundered around upside down on the blue carpet ground, my t-shirt mushroomed into a shroud and wrapped itself around my head and shoulders. My tracksuit bottoms burst and fell to the floor. So with my fat ass exposed, my knees and elbows skinned, I nearly cried till I realised there and then that my dealings with gymnasia and treadmills were severed forever. Because of the treadmill incident and a few other indignities, I had to cut short the trial. But then I found a tribe of my own. And since joining them, I've lost nearly all the pounds. And with the pounds I'm saving, I'm not buying the fags or the bonbons. I have a deposit paid on a designer-made, itsy-bitsy black and white polka dot bikini that I'll be strutting me stuff in all next summer, above at the long point.
Good evening, everyone. This is Kieran Cannon here in Athenry in County Galway. It's a joy. Oh, by the way, this is Greg. It's a joy and a privilege to be part of this very special Safe Home Ireland celebration of the Irish spoken word, of Irish poetry, of Irish literature. I've become very, very familiar over the last number of years with the extraordinary work of Safe Home Ireland in building a really strong sense of community, of solidarity across the Irish global diaspora. They do really, really valuable work in reaching out to and connecting with the most vulnerable members of that community, and also in ensuring that those of our Irish community who choose to return home here to Ireland, that they have a very, very positive experience of returning home and feel safe and secure when they do so. This is a celebration of the Irish spoken word, of Irish poetry. About 15 minutes from where we live here is Tour Ballylee, a place where W.B. Yeats spent a considerable part of his life. I would argue probably the happiest part of his life, even though those living in Sligo might beg to differ. And my favourite poem of Yeats is a poem called When You Are Old. So this is a recording of that poem that I did at Tour Ballylee, a beautiful location, an inspirational location, and a little piece of music called On Tour that I composed as a background to that poem. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks again to Safe Home Ireland for inviting me to be part of this very special celebration. Good night and take care. When you are old and grey and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true. But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars.
Hi, my name is Maria Noonan McDermott and I am a visual artist and a poet based in Kinloch in County Leitrim, which is North Leitrim. And as I'm sure you can tell by my accent, I am originally from Donegal. So I want to say thank you so much, first of all, to Karen McHugh for inviting me to participate in this wonderful celebration. 21 years of celebrating Safe Home Ireland, and be very privileged to be among such wonderful wordsmiths and poets and storytellers. So thank you. Karen and I go back a long way. We went to boarding school in Swinford and Mayo together, and we were both fanatical about basketball. We played in the team for 5 years, and even back then, Karen had a heart of gold. She was personable, kind and charismatic, and she just drew people to her. So I'm not one bit surprised on her choice of career path, supporting people and caring for people and helping them fit back into the environment and their home here in Ireland. So I think it's a wonderful initiative working with immigrants, and I'm just delighted to be a very small part of this celebration. So thank you, Karen. I'm going to start off by reading you a poem which I think is very apt. It's called The Parting. They turned away, knowing they'd never return. With heavy hearts they began their journey. Lost in the shadows of memories, veiled by the cloak of unknown, they entered a land of uncertainty, unsure and alone, emancipated by isolation and segregated by fear. They survive because they are strong, and as they rise, they are reborn. My second poem is all about hope, and it's called Beyond the Horizon. When your head is heavy and darkness engulfs you, when the storm rages and your body is battered and weary, adjust your sails so you can steer into the arms of the safe harbour. Travel far away to the limit of your sight towards a distant land, a land of infinite possibilities, where the sun continually passes through the year, connecting you to the outermost points beyond the horizon. Calm the ocean and set anchor. Be guided and seek shelter upon the tranquil shores. Take rest and heal your soul. Look always forward in the hope and the belief that blue skies will return once more. The third poem I'm going to do is all about childhood memories, and it's called Wishes. What do you dream of, little ones? Long, tall grasses to hide beneath blankets of green, great oaks to shelter, and rivers to swim. What do you dream of, little ones? Bluebell oceans, aft and waft in a sea of colour, wildflower meadows and daisy chains. What do you dream of, little ones? Dandelions, when they go to seed, not weeds, but magical crowns and wands called wishes, blown and caught on angels' wings, whilst held aloft on children's breath.
Hello everyone, my name is Zainab Emin. Today I'm reading a poem for you called Moving with Time. This poem is actually a dedication to Safe Home Ireland's 21 years of incredible service to people like myself. It was this time last year that we had moved back to Ireland, myself and my 3 children, and it was through their support and guidance that we got here safely and have started our lives anew. I'm delighted to be doing this on the summer solstice, which is a time to reflect back at where we were and where we are now, and I suppose that's something a lot of us can relate to. I hope you all enjoy the read. The hearts and stars escape the black, the night falls short of time, new light to open up the skies, we hear the new day chime. Breathe in with hope and out with glee, for all the turns we've passed, reaching up and out to score, and praying this will last. 21 years of struggles and fears, of tears of joy and pain. A new page we draw our pens to seal, a deal to continue the chain. A chain of peace, of hope and pride, linked one by one to help us guide. To guide we give, we teach, we hear. We keep hatred far and justice near. We seek, we speak, we embrace the new. Just think of me, how I think of you. Clean our lands, our hands and hearts, forever mending the broken parts. Broken society and sickness to cure, building the future to be more secure. Done with the fighting, the pointing, the blame. Life is real, but we've been played like a game. I, for one, I'm so ready to walk. Enough with the dreaming and talking the talk. I hope you all enjoyed listening to my poem. I am looking forward to next time. Thank you so much and good luck. Remember, the more you love, the more you learn.
Well, I hope you're enjoying the first part of our programme so far. Honestly, it's just been very moving to have so many amazing contributors from our very own ambassador, Sean Kane, who I have to say has just, since he became our ambassador in early March, he has just been wonderful to have on board, so kind. There is nothing that is too much trouble for Sean, and I personally myself attend his weekly Sunday night Facebook Live concerts, and constantly in the live stream it's messages how lucky Safe Home are to have ambassador of the calibre of Sean. So it's also great working with Sean. We have some great chats, and we are really looking forward to how we build this relationship going forward and how it will benefit Safe Home. So it's exciting times ahead. And This is our last, for now, online event. We've decided to take a break for a little while, so we are going to be looking at some in-person events later on, as Sean hinted at earlier. So watch this space and keep in touch. It was also lovely to have Michael Joe on our board, who's one of our founding members as well, pay tribute to his late wife, who just passed away only a couple of months ago. I know it was really emotional for Michael Joe, and he has been just an amazing supporter of Safe Home over the last 21 years. And of course, Anne-Marie, everyone was in stitches, literally. Obviously, it was just, your first piece was fabulous, and your second piece, it just shows that this evening is about having humour and fun, as well as looking at all the range of emotions. And poetry is about the whole expression of ourselves, so it's just lovely. And Kieran Cannon has been a great friend of Safe Home and has introduced us to many people as well. And just this weekend, Kieran did a cycle challenge where he cycled 600 kilometres from either Mizenhead to Mallinhead or vice versa, and he raised a lot of funds for Helping Hand, a wonderful charity that works with children. And Maria Noonan, we spent many days in boarding school together. I had the pleasure of supporting Zainab when she first returned last year, and you will have met her on our St. Patrick's Day Facebook concert. She contributed to that, where she relayed, I suppose, her journey and her experiences, and her move home as well, and how Safe Home was part of that journey as well, and where she is now positively, my dog's coming as always, she's positively, her children are at school and life is really is on a positive step forward for her. So Zainab, I know your poetry is just extraordinary, and she is currently writing a children's book and a poetry book. And for any of you who are famous poets, and quite a few of you here, we may link Zainab, because it's just remarkable, her journey and her story, and her using poetry to express emotions. We have a wonderful lineup for the next let's say half an hour or so. We've Ona Agby-Collin, who is going to have a very emotive poem. I'm not going to say what it is about. And Ona and I have had a number of conversations recently, and a very inspiring person, and is new to poetry. And when you hear her poem, you wouldn't think she was new to poetry. It's really, really inspiring, and will make everyone think here. Seamus O'Rourke, again, he is great conversations with Seamus as well about his, I suppose, his journey to America as an immigrant and his return, and also about the challenges that Irish abroad face. And while we applaud those that were successful, and our culture and our music, etc., it's really important that we don't forget those who didn't have it that easy. We have another contribution from Margaret Lynchahon, and again it's a tribute to her father, and it's just beautiful. And Margaret is a cousin of one of our directors, Anne Roddy, and it's lovely to make the connection again. We have Micheál and Ona Sullivan, who are great friends again of my days when I was in Limerick, Dorislimney, my former workplace. I had the pleasure of working closely with their father, who died, Micheál O'Sullivan, and he was an amazing composer and pianist, as many of you will know. And he and Owen and Micheál, or Molly, would have been great supporters of my previous work organisation, Dorislimney, and it's just so lovely that they have come on the journey as well. And they have a very emotive piece. It is all about poetry and spoken word, but we've made an excuse. We have one song, and that will be at the end, and we will finish with Sean, our ambassador, with some nice words to close our event. And I just really, thank you all for the journey and to be with us over the last 15 months. Just as final words, I just want to say thank you to some people. And while I am the public face of Safe Home Ireland, my role is just a small role in comparison to what my colleagues do. And I did mention it at the beginning, and that's Marianne, Bernadette, Brenda and Noreen. I'm part of a wonderful team, and it is your support that has ensured that this work and our outreach work and our housing is so smooth and is so successful. So I just really want to say thank you, because I get all the credit and the knowledge here in the public face. And I also want to acknowledge our board of directors, who support the organisation in every possible way to ensure that we are compliant in all the standards, that we are a charity and that we're transparent and we're above board. And I'm not going to acknowledge each person individually, but I just want to thank each of you as well. Thank you all for contributing to this concert. It's great to have quite a lot online here as well. So without further ado, I may just do a quick little poem. Another one of Johnny B. Broderick's. Thank you, Johnny B. And thank you all. And I am not going to be back again later. Sean is going to give us some final words at the end. So enjoy the rest of the concert. And it's been lovely to meet so many people, both online and on this journey. And please stay on the Safe Home journey, because we are all on a journey, and perhaps with our Plan Giving campaign you can assist us in making no place like home for those who have that desire to come home and fulfill their dreams. So my final piece, and I've chosen this because Johnny B. Broderick has a strange sense of humour and wit, and he asked me to look at the meaning of this particular poem, and I spent quite a bit of time thinking about it and analysed it, and his reply was two words, I think. So the poem is called The Privilege. The privilege to sit pensively at your bedside and watch death slowly steal you away, to hold your hand on our memories, even when the theft is done, these precious gifts would stay. To see your eyes open wide one last time as you look towards heaven's throne. I know I am the privileged one to spend these last hours with you alone. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ona Agby Collin, and I'm delighted and honoured to be with you this evening to celebrate the wonderful work of Safe Home Ireland on their 21st anniversary on this summer solstice day. This evening I'm going to recite a poem I wrote called The Skin That I Live In. I was asked to write a piece several months ago for Black History Month. I'd never written anything before, but I was told to give it a go. Sit down with a pen and paper and write, and whatever comes into your head. So this is what I wrote, and I hope you enjoy it. I wasn't always sure about the colour of my skin. I didn't fit in. I wasn't the same. I got the stares, I got the looks, I got the nudges and the names. That's the way it was in those days. But the more I grew and travelled and saw that being of two cultures is not a flaw. From art to literature, music and dance, they didn't teach me that in school. I didn't have a chance. I'd only heard of the wars, the famines and drought, the penny for the black babies, the shame and the doubt. But today I'm stronger and taller and proud of my roots in both cultures. I shout it out loud. From the masks of Nigeria to the green hills of Ayr, the abundance is clear. Check out my hair. There's more to me than what you see. This is who I am. It's all part of me. Who wouldn't want to be in the skin that I live in? I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful evening celebrating the fantastic work of Safe Home Ireland. Thank you for listening.
Hello, Seamus O'Rourke here from County Leitrim. I'm delighted to be able to do a few bits this evening for Safe Home Ireland. It's a cause that is very close to my heart. I know lots of people who went away years ago. Some got on very well and made lots of money, and some have had a bit of misfortune and have, I suppose, fallen through the cracks. So I'd like to dedicate this to those people. I went to New York myself in my 20s, and I came home from New York in my 20s, thanks be to God, because otherwise I think I might have been one of those unlucky few who it didn't work out for. So I wish Safe Home Ireland well, and anything that anybody can do for them would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to do a few pieces this evening. The first one is called My First Dance, and it's dedicated to a man called Joe Clamping Maguire. Now, Joe was, when I met him, when I was young, he was in his 50s or 60s, or he seemed to be an old man all my life, and he's dead now, God rest him. But he was very fond of dancing and very fond of women, but they were not so fond of him, and but he never got too put out by a refusal. He was a great man to try women to dance. A harmless man now he was, in fairness. He also was a great man to raise funds when funds were low. He would go off to Inniskillen to the pound shop, and he'd buy a singing fish for £1, a little ornament that when you went near it, it would start to sing, a fish. And he'd raffle this fish. He'd buy a packet of raffle tickets, and he'd sell the raffle tickets for the singing fish, and he'd sell them at £1 for 5 tickets, and he'd make about 50 or 60 quid on the singing fish, and then whoever won the singing fish would give it back, because they didn't really want a singing fish, and then he'd raffle it again, so he'd be doubling his money every time. He was a wonderful man, a generous man, and I'll dedicate this to him. It's called My First Dance. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be, the dance hall scene, especially at the tail end of it back in the early 80s. Not for those of us who had just left Legoland and walked straight on to the junior team. Not easy when you're 16, the pioneer pin at half-mast, the officer in charge at Horney Grand Central with his ear cocked full-time, standing to attention, all hands to the pump on weeknights. But this was the weekend. Time to dream a little and wash ourselves. Time to dust off the hay and turf, pull the ticks, or at least give them a good fix of brute, have them smelling right for those weekend nights in Balnamore or the Mayflower in Drumshambo, the Beecher's Brook of the dance hall scene. Most dance halls had romantic themes back then, like the Mayflower, or the Rainbow, or the Granada, or the Wonderland in Bawn, or just plain Ballignat that had no romance at all. But this was the weekend of my first dance, and the Wonderland and its reservoirs was where I get my chance. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting so little. A giant waiting room is all it was, waiting for the love doctor to hand us our prescription, and a small crowd. That observation would come in handy later. And the band was nothing to write home about either. They played the Hucklebuck a few times, and then a few more times later, and said thank you for dancing, even when no one did. There was only a handful of girls there at the start, and their lifts, these older bachelor neighbours who had provided transport, and although they had bad hips, they liked driving young ones to dances. The scent that lingered in their cars helped numb the loneliness of their country lives. No magic tree was needed in a cortina full of youthful ladies laughing, and a ticket in and a supper served, romance by association. And the presentation of these girls was mainly down to the caretaker of the hall, who had placed all the old church pews along the longest wall in case anyone wanted to sit, and this is where they sat, perched on the backs of pews, waiting for the queues of men to choose one of them to dance. Joe Clamping would choose them all if he got half a chance, because Joe was 60 and he loved to dance and sell raffle tickets for a singing fish. And he had this young one out on the floor who wasn't quite ready for his level of enthusiasm. Joe's up and let me at him style was being rebuked. I must remember that, I thought. Enthusiasm is wasted on the youth. At least the band thanked Joe for dancing. It was time for me to make my move. Maybe it's because it was my first time there, but I could feel everyone stare when she wouldn't dance. And maybe I didn't ask her right. I had said, would you like to dance? Okay, I said it under my breath, but she must have known I wasn't asking for a loaf of bread. I rephrased the question and said it louder. I said, are you dancing? Her friend said, no, she's not, but I am. And she grabbed me by the hand. It was like asking for a loaf of bread and getting a pot of jam. She said, my name's Pamela. I haven't seen you before, but I couldn't answer because we were now out on the floor and I was no dancer. I said, there's a small crowd. She said, there is. I didn't know what to say after that. She said, they'll all come in when the pubs are closed. And I said, I suppose, but I don't suppose I knew what I suppose. I was 16 years old and I couldn't concentrate with the battle of the bulls that was going on elsewhere. Luckily, Joe Clamping had found himself a new partner. He was pushing her out onto the floor as if her battery was flat and he was trying to start her. And the band said, let's change the tempo and slow it down. And I found myself looking around for some divine inspiration. The conversation bubble fell like lead, and Pamela moved closer and I went red. And before she hit the Rocket Cashel, I said, would you like to buy a ticket for Joe Clamping's raffle? She said, is that what you have in your pocket? More blood ran to me head. I said, it's very warm. She said, it is. And you're very red. I said, I think I might be coming down with a fever. She said, you should have stayed in bed. Joe Clamping smiled, because he had his one started. And that's the story of my first dance and Joe Clamping. The next piece is another piece close to my heart. It's called The Drawer. It's about getting old and about dementia. The Drawer. He was an easygoing man, that's what they said. Easygoing, and he was. My father had a drawer under the bench in the shed. That was his go-to place. The summer he went for peace or clarity or just time. The drawer had divisions made from scalps of wood, dividing up washers and rivets and split pins and plugs, roll plugs, for masonry. It was a farmer's emporium of knickknacks and tools. Everything was there, anything you'd use to fix farming equipment or stuff about the house. But it wasn't always what was in the drawer that the old man saw. It was the world around him when it got disturbed. It was his place of reflection and welding and grinding and sorting out questions and sometimes, not always, finding answers. If we wouldn't do homework or crash the good car, if there was a row over football or someone let him down somehow, he'd go to the shed and he'd open the drawer and he'd start footering and figuring and scratching and bagging And after surmising, he'd put all away, and he'd take a deep breath, and he'd have the last say. Of course he did. He was the boss. He kept everything there, all the rivets and screws, and a packet of lockets that never got used. And fuses. He had a compartment for fuses all to themselves, said they were safer there than above on the shelves, and they were. And he had a section for locks, and a whole load of keys. He had keys for locks that were lost or broken, and good locks with no keys that no one could open. If he'd a row with me mother, that's where he'd go, although it wasn't often they had a row. If there was an animal down or a friend of his died, you'd see him through the window just standing inside at the bench by the drawer. And as time went on, he went there a lot, and he'd open the drawer and sometimes not. The divisions and compartments had started to crumble. Everything was there. It was just such a scramble to find what he wanted. But he still fixed things, or he thought he did. And sometimes he fixed things that were already fixed. Mostly, he put on his glasses, smart glasses from the pouch on the shelf, and he tidied the bench and tied bits of twine. And he'd foot her through the drawer and say, "Oh my, all these things so precious," and he didn't know why. He was an easygoing man, that's what they said, easygoing. He kept his world in a drawer, under the bench, in the shed.
Hello everyone, and thank you for asking me to attend this evening. Firstly, I'll introduce myself. My name is Margaret Lynchahun from Kilmovee in County Mayo. I have been invited here this evening on behalf of my late father, Martin Frayne, also from Kilmovee. So let me tell you a little bit about Martin. When Martin was growing up, he, like many his age, attended gatherings in houses and clubs and so on. And the idea was that each person would perform in some way, perhaps a song or a dance or a bit of music or whatever took their fancy. But my dad couldn't do any of these things, or so he said. So he decided that he, at the age of 15, would start writing little bits of recitations and poetries. This expanded as time went on, and he was the go-to person for any occasion, whether it be a birthday, a wedding, an anniversary, or any community event. He had his recitation ready. In 2001, he compiled some of his best recitations onto a recording and sold that in memory of my mum. And with this, he raised a substantial amount of money for Mayo Roscommon Hospice. In 2015, our parish here in Kilmovee were publishing a book entitled Down Memory Lane, and asked my dad to write a piece, which of course he did. However, before this book was published, he passed away. After his death, we re-released his recordings, and again, it raised a lot of money for Mayo Roscommon Hospice. So this evening, I would like to recite for you that last recitation that he wrote, and he called it The Old Home. 60 years or more ago, nearly all country houses matched, and except for an odd slated one, all the rest were thatched. Most of them faced the south in order to catch the sun. There were 3-roomed cottages that time, with a hag in every one. They all had 3 front windows and a back and front door. The hag, of course, was sticking out 3 feet or even more. A lot of them had 1 chimney stack, but most of them had 2, and some had, for the small room, just a chimney flue. They all were neatly whitewashed and with home-burned lime, and they always got this facelift when came the springtime. Inside too got the same, but with a tinge of blue. Some kitchens were sealed with fibre bags, and they were whitewashed too. The floor was done with the best of flags, and some shone with age and wear. They would be washed once or twice a week, and they got no other care. At the bottom of the kitchen, there was a rail with hat and coat hooks. It was used for hanging top coats. It didn't matter about the looks. On the other end was the fireplace with fire crane and crooks. Something was nearly always hanging down with the pot hooks. or a cake of bread in a pan or oven sitting on the grid, with coals underneath, of course, and some more upon the lid. And an arm's length above the fireplace, the mantelpiece stood there. The tea caddy was in the centre, and candlesticks 1 pair. A few more little ornaments, a cottage teapot or a mug, and on the left-hand corner was a pipe and a walnut plug. A few feet further up, with hands held apart, looking down gracefully, was a picture of the Sacred Heart. And to the right of that picture was a peg up good and high. It was used for the pony's collar, and it was brought in to keep it dry. Hanging above the front window was the only form of light, an oil lamp with wick shade and a globe to make the darkness bright. And then the lovely dresser that stood between hag and door. It was a lovely piece of furniture, and it stood 6 feet from the floor. The willow dishes were in the centre at what was called the seat. They were tilted at an angle so as the eye did meet. Placed in within them were teapots or 3 jugs, and on the next shelf was the row of bowls and mugs. Then the row of dinner plates, they were often blue. They were leaning on a little rail that went straight through. And then the delf egg stands, there could be 8 or 9, and they were all on the same shelf in a dead straight line. The last shelf was the tea set, and willow it had to be. For display it really was, but for Christmas it was used for tea. The big plates hung over them, carried by rail, and on the side of the dresser were the beads hung on a nail. There were 2 drawers lower down, just underneath the seat. They were used for letters and the likes, and every little receipt. Then underneath the dresser, there would be a form or stool, pushed in and out off the way when the children were at school. Or in the springtime of that year, there might be a clucking hen, with a brood of little chickens from 14 down to 10. The hag was further up, adjoining the chimney wall. It was curtained off the kitchen, and it couldn't be seen at all. But inside those curtains was a lovely cushy bed. It just fitted in place, sides end and head. It was like a little convalescent place if a child wasn't well, seemed to get better quicker there, the reason you couldn't tell. But company was happiness, and this without a doubt, taking in everything and the little eyes looking out. The rooms then were much the same, with a bed or maybe 2. One might be a spare room when numbers were getting few. But the churn would be in the warmest one, for the cream it had to turn sour and prepare for churning day, which would take about an hour. It was a monotonous job indeed, which was a constant up and down. If there was any break in this, the mother, she would frown. We must keep it going, she'd say, or the butter it won't be right. If you don't keep your minds to it, we'll be here until tonight. When the dashing would be over, she would get the butter bats and she'd take out with the clobbin, and with the bats she'd make the roll. And oh, what lovely butter. It was near the shade of gold, washed out with pure spring water that was nearly ice cold. You couldn't forget the taste of it, if that taste you ever got, with the knob of it with Colcannon made in the skillet pot. We could go on and on, going down memory lane. That lane is sometimes lonesome, but there is something to gain. It shows we love our heritage, and we hope to pass it on to our descendants to do likewise in that time when we are gone. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone. Happy anniversary to this wonderful charity, Safe Home, and they would be grateful for any donation, big or small, from you. Thank you.
Hello, Safe Home. My name is Micheál Moley O'Sullivan, and it is an honour to contribute to this evening's collection of troubadours and poets and spoken word storytellers for such a noble motivation as Safe Home. So when I think of home, I think of singing. I'm a singer and a poet myself, and I'm going to share with you a special place in the heart of the Burren, actually, which is the home to a good friend of myself and my brothers, a farmer called Patrick McCormack, a poet and reciter of fierce nature called Patrick McCormack. So I wrote a poem in honour of him and his led walks across his land there in the heart of the Burren above his family home. So I'd like to share that, and maybe I'll share a song and a poem, and there might be another poem in me then as well. The first poem is called The Skylark. The Skylark, for Patrick McCormack. The skylarks beat their wings over 7 streams, as Sliabh na Glasha's panorama is filling every vessel. The farmer roars welcome over his pride and joy. Do not underestimate the circumstances that have brought you here, to this clear source above Glen Quinn. Here he brings friends of friends who seek the font of life. Here you are invited to sign your name in the sky above Mullach Moor and leave names of the dead to swoop and scream, so that the steep descent through Hazelwood to Gingham laid lives seems dangerously essential, frightened and girdered, happy and heartbroken. A man named James once watched me sing, while bright orbs of blue and white rose from that true source of 7 streams. He whispered that to me, and I'm proud I believe him. Searching the glare for the skylark, you find her call is ample, and spying this animal in the sky only amplifies the voice you came here to silence. Lower your eyes from heaven to your horizon, to the rocks you pad upon. Listen to the hovering bird, the skylark in the clear air. Walk beneath it. Let this birdsong be the twittering canopy, a fluttering incantation that calls forth the orbs of blue and white to rise up out of water flowing just beneath your feet. And a man named James once watched me sing while bright orbs of blue and white rose from that true source of 7 streams. He whispered that to me, and I'm proud I believe him. And searching the glare for the skylark, you find her call is ample, and spying this animal in the sky only amplifies the voice you came here to silence. So lower your eyes from heaven to your horizon, to the rocks you pad upon. Listen to the hovering bird, the skylark in the clear air. Walk beneath it. Let this birdsong be the twittering canopy, a fluttering incantation that calls forth the orbs of blue and white to rise up out of water flowing just beneath your feet. Love is little, love is low. Love will make our spirits grow. Grow in peace, grow in light. Love will do the thing that's right. I'm here in Killaloe, County Clare, on the shores of the River Shannon. And just up the road, Loch Derg opens up. And on that lake is a very special place to me that feels like home. And many of you have possibly visited this beautiful couple of acres of an island, which holds the remnants of a great history of monasticism here in Ireland. It's called Inishcaltra, or Holy Island. There's a series of amazing ruins there, and if you haven't been to that particular place, you can get a little ferry. Just Google it, Inishcaltra, Holy Island. It's a hidden gem here in the Golden Vale, and I was moved to write a poem about it when I visited it a couple of years ago. And this is Holy Island, and I suppose it is a poem about the regenerative effect of journeying across a threshold and also arriving home and recharging. Inishcaltra, or Holy Island. Standing on the shore, Loch Derg is a glimmering danger. Stepping into the fishing boat clumsily, you become the monk ferried home. Habits hem, wet and heavy, to the bright torchlight of Inishcaltra. Bittersweet is the return to exile. To leave behind is to be taken in, and you are part of this island before ever setting foot upon it again. Your right hand trails the water's warm surface. Hungry for change, your praying lately has only inflamed old ways in you that lurk like pike that swim beneath you now as you cross. Retreat to your holy island, where you begin again. Returning lighter, your habit's hem pressed and flowing. Step out from the fishing boat, gracefully, the round tower at your back. Strike out, carrying the lightest burden, transformed from deep inside and ready for the relief of love. For standing on the shore, Loch Derg is a glimmering danger. And stepping into the fishing boat clumsily, you become the monk ferried home to the bright torchlight of Inishkeltra. You become the monk ferried home, habit's hem wet and heavy, to the bright torchlight of Inishkeltra. Bittersweet is the return to exile. To leave behind is to be taken in, and you are part of this island before ever setting foot upon it again. Your right hand trails the water's warm surface, hungry for change. Your praying lately has only inflamed old ways in you that lurk like pike that swim beneath you now as you cross. Retreat to your holy island where you begin again. Returning lighter, your habit's hem pressed and flowing, step out from the fishing boat gracefully, the round tower at your back. Strike out, carrying the lightest burden, transformed from deep inside and ready for the relief of love. For peace is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all our spirits free. Home is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all our spirits free. And joy is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all our spirits free, setting all our spirits free. Thanks for sharing in these poems of mine with you.
Hello everybody, friends and colleagues and circles of friendship of the great organisation Safe Home Ireland. My name's Ono Sullivan and I make my safe home here on the wilds of the great Niagara frontier of western New York in the environs of the great city of Buffalo, where I've made my home here for about 4 or 5 years now. And I'm going to sing you a song, a great song about home, and a song about love, and a song about yearning, from the southwest of Ireland, from West Cork. It's a beautiful song in the English language, but there's one phrase that remains in the ancient wisdom language, the Irish language. And that line is Is éireann ní nósin cé hí. And for Ireland, I'll not speak her name. And for Ireland, I'll not speak her name. So it's a great, effusive love song where the singer is declaring their undying love for their lover, calling in all of the powerful and beautiful forces of the natural world. And it's a song that is very centered on home and on place. But there's a last verse, which I don't often sing, but there's a last verse which says that if there's ever any trouble between the man and their lover, that they'll sail off and make their home somewhere else, you know. and it always the line returns, but for Ireland I'll not speak her name. So there's a great lesson here, a great teaching of gentleness and of not naming things too soon or too early, letting things grow in their own time. And so this is a song dedicated to the great dedication that the wonderful team at Safe Home Ireland bring to the world and bring to all of us who are yearning for that place, that new home that awaits us. So thank you very much. There's a home by the great Avonmore that flows into the broad open sea, and the rivers that break through the foam, and the bulrushes wave in the breeze. The green ivy clings round the door, and the birds sweetly sing on each tree. To my darling sweet notes they do pour. Is it no sing her father has riches in store of cattle, corn, and great wealth, and fine land by lovely Glandor, whilst I have my youth and good health. For she's the fond maid I adore, and kindly she waits there for me by the old stile in lovely Glandor. Is it no and if there e'er be dispute by us both between her loving parents and mine, on a steamship that will be afloat, we'll sail off to some strange country. There we'll build up a home of our own, and we'll raise up a fine family, and it's then sure our name will be known. Is it no son? Is it no son? It no son. Thank you all very much. Hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and look forward to being part of this wonderful group again in the future. Thank you all very much, and all of the light and the life and the joy of the summer solstice to you and yours.
Well, hello again, everyone. Thank you indeed to everybody who took part this evening. I'd like to thank Can McHugh for Safe Home Ireland and all the people in Safe Home Ireland, and I'd like to thank them for the work that they do. I'd like to thank you for your support here this evening on this Summer Solstice Safe Home Ireland concert, and I'd like to thank you for your support all through the last year in the Cara Cottage sessions. Thank you so much, and your generosity has been absolutely amazing. Both your time and support in every way, it's been great. I'd like to just finish up with another little poem by the great man himself, Johnny B. Broderick. Seeing as he's here, I'll do it in his stead. It's a poem called Reason. Some say every action has a reason. There is no fate, just decision. There is no destiny, just the journey. No coincidences, just paths crossing. I am who I am by the decisions I make. I am where I am by the journey I take. The dreams I have along the way, necessary distractions to face reality. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you all involved here this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe, stay well, and have a wonderful summer. Bye bye and God bless.
The only thing I see ahead is just the heat rising off the road. The rainbows I keep chasing keep on fading before I find my crop of gold. And more I'm thinking that the only treasures that I'd ever know are long ago and far behind, wrapped up in my memories of home. Home was a swimming hole and a fishing pole and a field in the muddy road between my toes. Home was a back porch swing where I would sit and Mama sang Amazing Grace while she hung out the clothes. Home was an easy chair with my daddy there and the smell of Sunday supper on the stove. My footsteps carry me away, but in my mind I'm always going home. The miles that lay behind me weren't as hard as the miles that lay ahead. And it's too late to listen to the words of wisdom that my daddy said. And the straight and narrow path he showed me turned into 1,000 winding roads. My footsteps carry me away, but in my mind I'm always going home. Home was a swimming hole and a fishing pole and a field of the muddy road between my toes. Home was a back porch swing where I would sit and Mama sang Amazing Grace while she hung out the clothes. Home was an easy chair with my daddy there and the smell of Sunday supper on the stove. My footsteps carry me away, but in my mind I'm always going home. And the straight and narrow path he showed me turned into 1,000 winding roads. My footsteps guiding me